Welcome to Internal Affairs of the Mind, where we don't chase trends, but we chase the truth, where reflection is weaponized and reality's got no place to hide. Some people preach, some people pretend. Me, I investigate. I'm Greg Thompson, a retired cop with over 2 decades experience, but a lifelong investigator, and now, a full-time interrogator of the human condition. This isn't therapy, it's not philosophy class. It's an investigation into everything they told you not to question and everything you told yourself you didn't have time to. Let's crack today's case. Let's chop it up. What's something you refuse to talk about or address because you believe it will undo you? What trauma or pain do you allow to continue to maintain control? That's where I want to go today. So for my second week on the job, I was thrown into the deep end, literally. No, this wasn't a cops and robbers exciting made-for-television type event that I signed up for. Quite frankly, this wasn't even something I probably had considered when pursuing this career in the first place. No, this was something very different, much more damaging, definitely much more painful. I had to stand there and watch as the body of a 2-year-old child was being worked on after being pulled from the water. It wasn't my child. I didn't even know the family. But being there, being in the middle of their pain, their screaming, their heartbreak, it left a scar. And that was just the beginning. There were other calls, the suicide deaths I was called to, the family who didn't have enough food to eat or money to keep the lights on. The runaway kids called in by the distraught parents who blamed themselves because of the argument they believed caused their child's disappearance. Or the kid with the toy gun whose life I nearly took. Law enforcement, military, EMS, trauma is all too often our home address. An address we tend to convince ourselves is our permanent address that we're destined to live at forever. In fact, the average law enforcement officer will face trauma incidents in the triple digits over their careers. Now compare that to the single-digit traumatic events that most people experience in their entire lifetime. That means our susceptibility to post-traumatic stress, mental health struggles, anger, and disconnection is cranked up exponentially to dangerous levels. Now, I'm not saying this as an excuse. I'm saying it as a truth we can't afford to continue to ignore. Pair that with the level of exposure with a profession that still struggles to address and face the cost of trauma, you've got a recipe that destroys lives, and we've seen it play out in real time. But here is what I want you to hear. You don't have to wear a badge to know the kind of pain that I'm talking about. Because unfortunately, trauma does not discriminate. It touches every single one of us. In my career as a cop, I learned this early and way too often. And there's plenty of research to back it up if you want to dig. But this episode isn't just about cops. It's about me. It's about you. It's about every single person breathing and listening right now. About the cumulative failure as a society to recognize, accept, and deal with the levels of trauma and pain we are exposed to, and the effects it has on absolutely every single thing and every single one. Because here's the hard truth. Whether you're wearing a badge or sitting behind a desk, none of us goes untouched. I'm more than ever inclined to even argue that the exposure to trauma today is climbing to unsustainable levels for everyone. Why? That's pretty simple. Because we're all soaking and drowning in pain and trauma, and we've collectively failed to name it, claim it, and face it before it destroys us, one by one. Trauma doesn't show up at crime scenes anymore. It shows up in your feed, and every day, multiple times a day, we are bombarded with death, disaster, outrage, and division. And the algorithm isn't neutral. It's seemingly designed to keep us angry, afraid, and addicted. And here's the problem. We don't just experience trauma. We let it consume us. We hand it the keys. We let it drive. Before we know it, Pain is setting the destination. Trauma has a hold of the wheel, and we're just passengers in our own life. On edge, at the ready, defensive in mindset, then offensive out of perceived necessity. I once read something that stuck with me. It said, there comes a point where we are no longer just a product of our environment or how we were raised. A time when staying the same is no longer about what happened to you, it's about what you're choosing. Ignoring or blaming your past may feel justified, but eventually it just becomes the excuse keeping you stuck. At some point, you either grab the wheel or stay in the back seat, letting the pain and the trauma keep deciding where you're headed. I want today to be about starting that journey to pull ourselves out of the wreckage before the wreckage consumes our life, our joy, our humanity. Because until we do, all of us will continue to bleed out what's left of our humanity. So the real problem isn't just the trauma, because we can't rid ourselves of those things occurring. They're a part of life. The real challenge is in controlling how much exposure we actually have to it, especially considering the excessive amounts that we see and experience that aren't even our own. And more importantly, how we deal with it and what we do with it. Too often, we block it out with distractions, drown it with alcohol, bury ourselves in work, laugh it off. Best one, blame others. And sadly, my personal go-to, get angry, isolate. All the while we tell ourselves, I'm fine. I can tough it out. Because somehow tough is somehow meant to mean quiet, enduring it, not letting ourselves or anyone else think something could possibly be wrong. Silence isn't toughness. Survival is. And survival often means breaking open before we break down. And here is where this became real for me, not just in theory, but in my own growth. So I once attended a leadership-based training session that I thought was some of the most powerful training points for a successful leader. During it, the speaker told raw, unfiltered, painful story after story about her father, a police officer. And every story painted him in a terrible light. I remember thinking, you're in a room full of cops and you're bad-mouthing your police officer dad? That's not the way to win this room over. But then she flipped it, told us of his eventual suicide, and then of what came after. Facing her own trauma and pain, the fear, the anger, the neglect when he was alive, the grief, and yes, even some relief now that he was gone. But here's the thing, all of that trauma and pain is what pushed her into her work. And what is that work, you might be asking? She has dedicated her life as a servant leader and works specifically with law enforcement and military personnel to process and work through trauma. She wasn't there to shame her father. She was there to help lead us towards not becoming him. Talk about flipping the script. Using pain, your personal pain, to help others, even when those others remind you of where that pain came from. That resonated with me on a level I can't even explain. She was grace personified. She relives her pain on purpose so someone else's kid doesn't have to grow up like she did. And here's the even deeper part. She does it with those of us who probably remind her of who and what caused her trauma in the first place, so that they know help actually exists before they spiral. She embodied courage, resilience, hope. She would go on to explain the amount of healing she had to endure to be able to move on from the pain and the trauma experienced, to then being able to weaponize it as a way to help others heal, from within and from outside as help was needed. In essence, she took the negative power she allowed it to have and used it as wisdom and fuel for her own positive transformation. After hearing all that, I had to sit with myself. Why was I so quick to judge her and conclude the sole purpose of her lecture was to shine a light on the darkness of the profession and bash us? Perhaps because I let my own trauma steer my thinking. Maybe because I heard the stories and how they may have paralleled to some of my own behavior towards my family and friends. Maybe because I built walls of excuses instead of using those experiences to grow, allowing it to control me. Throwing stones from my glass house. That session with her forced me to look at my own reflection, and I didn't like what I saw. So here's the truth I've come to accept: healing is my job, your job. Growth is a decision, mine, yours. Now, I know some of us are carrying pain so deep it seems unbearable to face. I know what it's like for trauma to take up permanent residence. I'm not minimizing that. And don't you minimize it either, or allow anybody to minimize it for you. You can honor what happened to you and still refuse to let it own your next chapters. You are absolutely allowed to feel the pain, to say it was unfair, unjust, unwarranted. Yet, we are still responsible for what we do next. So here's the field assignment for today. I want to challenge you with something, and I mean this seriously. Look, asking you to completely pull the plug on social media and 24-hour news is like asking someone hooked on opioids to go cold turkey. I'm not exaggerating. The pull is that strong. But here's the deal. For the next 30 days, more if you can, be ruthless and intentional about what you allow into your feeds. Hunt for motivational content, survival and comeback stories, reminders of faith, grace, and grit. I want you to hit not interested on every negative meme, every crime clip, every doom and gloom post. Ignore the political circus. Pass on the endless cycle of outrage clickbait. I want you to choose to feed your mind something that builds rather than breaks, something mindful rather than mindless. And while you do this, pay particular attention to how much negativity is already being pushed at you. Then I want you to watch what happens after a few weeks. Watch the algorithm shift. Watch the volume of that outside noise start to fade. I've already done this myself, and it's staggering how much lighter you feel when you stop letting your phone convince you the world is burning and you must take a side. You already have enough battles inside your own four walls, so stop piling unhealthy amount of not good illusions into your brain and give yourself the break and the chance you deserve. Do you remember the instruction given when it feels like the plane is going down? When the oxygen masks drop and chaos takes over, remember what they tell you every single time. Put your mask on first before helping others. Take care of you so you can show up for the rest. Taking back your mind is taking care of you. Then watch the needle move in your mind and then watch it move in your life. It was J. Mike Fields who said, bravery is the willingness to look inside yourself and say, I'm ready to feel this now. No more running, hiding, or distracting. It's time. And this is where I challenge us to stop running, stop hiding or masking. Start by naming it. If you can't say what happened, even just to yourself, it still owns you. And then find a witness, person or persons who won't flinch when you tell them the truth, who will listen only to listen, not to judge or fix, just a safe space. And then, one step. You don't have to heal it all this week. Just stop pretending it doesn't hurt and it's not controlling you. Stop suppressing it like it will just disappear. Because what we bury tends to grow roots until one day it sprouts. I'd like to offer you a practical tool, something you can use or give someone else permission to use with you. It's not my idea. I can't even remember where I heard it, but I loved it. And I believe it's simple enough and very powerful enough to have enormous impact if put into practice. With someone you trust, your witness, your lifeline, agree on a code with them. A code that means, I need you right now. The weight of the moment is just too much. So just text them the number 12. This number means I need 12 minutes of your time to unload what is about to crush me. It's a call for help. For those of us who receive that 12, stop what you can stop. Make 12 minutes happen without judgment. Be the safe space. 12 minutes is not a long time, and it isn't even about the exact amount of time. But sometimes saying the words, I need help, can be very heavy themselves. So the 12 is just a simple text. It's a uniform call for assistance, a message that says, someone cares enough about you to reach out, so care enough to respond. Anyone listening? I'm giving you permission to text me 12 whenever the need arises. Let me say that again. Anyone listening to my voice? I'm giving you permission to text me 12 whenever the need arises. If you want to create your own emoji or number of your choice with your witness, that's fine too. Because if we can find time to scroll social media, be proud to pursue the top universities, excel in our careers, become famous elite athletes, or make loads of money to spend, but we can't learn or dedicate enough time to regulate our emotions, help others, practice conflict resolution, or properly navigate stress and trauma, none of that other shit really matters, and it won't even last. So for today's field assignment, I want you to ask yourself, what is it costing me to keep running? Who do I trust enough to share this with? What would freedom from this look like for me? Write the answers down. Take them out of the darkness and put them into the light. Name it, then claim it. You want to know what real strength looks like? It's not white knuckling your way through life pretending you've got it all handled. The real flex, asking for help. Somewhere along the way, we got sold a lie that needing someone makes us weak. That's garbage. The ability to call it out, to speak life to what's been holding you hostage, that's where the real power is. That's how we take back the wheel. Because once you name it, you can face it. Once you face it, you can fight it. And once you fight it, you can finally move past it. So I read the following somewhere and it felt like it was screaming directly at me. Some days more than others. Schedule your peace because pain will schedule itself. We need to protect our peace the way we protect our phone battery at 1%. Carefully, intentionally, and urgently. The pain we've been avoiding has been steering our lives for years. But you're still standing. Perhaps damaged, but aren't we all? That means we still get to choose. We can be the passenger no longer. When we get out of the car to assess the damage sustained, we forget something. We drive the car. The car doesn't drive us. We have to be our own mechanic. So fix the car. Patch what you can. Replace what you must. Jog, walk, crawl. Hell, ask to be carried by someone trustworthy. If it's beyond repair in places, buy a new damn car. But don't you dare, not for one damn minute longer, give continued control and power to the wreckage. Get behind the wheel. Take back control. And for the love of God, drive like your life depends on it. Because it probably does. This has been Internal Affairs of the Mind, where we break in, strip it down, and get real. So hopefully together, we can build ourselves back up armed with wisdom. Peace and blessings to everyone. Be kind. Be a good human. Thanks for listening. I'm Greg Thompson, and we'll chop it up next time.